Good morning, Chairman. We are now live.
Thank you, Tom. Welcome everybody to Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue Fire Pension Scheme Board meeting. So just going through in regards to the document pack. First of all, have we any further apologies for absence, Tom?
We have apologies from Bill Jakubitz, and we have Paul Brown replacing him for this meeting only.
Okay, thank you for that. And just for note, at the moment we haven't got West Yorkshire Pension Fund represented at this moment in time. They may join in the meeting, but we haven't had any notification that they wouldn't be attending, have we? No. Okay. But we will continue with the pension scheme board meeting, and we can pick up items as and when we come up to the performance data, which will be the information that we've got in the pack anyway. Okay, item 2, any declarations of interest? No. Okay, we'll just go through the minutes of the previous meeting and pick up the actions as we go through. Okay, so in regards to the pack on page 3, just for accuracy. Okay. Page 4 for accuracy. And to pick up, there were 4 actions identified as FRA to promote the need for scheme members to provide good note of intention to retire, going out into the bulletins. That's been completed. The FRA to continue to promote Affinity Connect pre-retirement course to staff. Okay, that's been gone out in the weekly bulletin as well. Review warm-up comms letter for those who retired on ill health. Absolutely, thank you, Liz. That's been completed. And for FRA to investigate Home Office funding in relation to undertaking work to ensure the Matthews and Remedy changes. Actually, was that notification we got prior to the meeting of funding to be released. I don't know if you did you hear anything about that, Sue? Yes. Brilliant. So that's being looked into as well. So those actions can be resolved. Thank you. Page 5 for accuracy. And action was in regards to line 2113, just updating on the action sheet. So that was. So did we update that one? Yeah, we did. Yeah, thank you, Tom. So that's been complete. Page 6 for accuracy. Page 7. And very quickly on page 8, those 3 lines. Okay, so we'll sign off minutes, true record, thank you Tom, and record the actions have been completed as stated in the meeting. Thank you. Okay, so we're actually on item 4, which is about the performance data from West Yorkshire Pension Fund, which normally West Yorkshire would be presenting this on behalf of the board. I'm assuming that attendees have had the opportunity to read through the report prior to the meeting, so I'm not intending to go through the report verbatim, but it is an opportunity by exception for any points that anybody wanted to raise or wanted to pick out in regards to performance data since the last pension board meeting. Yep. So we'll accept the pension board report, performance data report as it is, and a true accurate record of recent data, performance data rather. Which moves us on to item 5, which is about the current issues. So Liz, in regards to anything you wanted to raise in this area, please.
Thank you, Mark. If I start with IDRP cases, I'm pleased to say we've had none. The second item is in relation to breaches. We've just had one breach this quarter. That was in connection with the Matthews second options exercise. So the legislation came in on the 1st of October 2023 because it's a significant change in that members now, if they've got continuous service and are in scope, can buy back pension right to their continuous start date with the council. Before, they're only allowed to buy back until July 2000. So we had a 3-month window of opportunity to write to everybody in scope, give them an expressions of interest, just to inquire whether or not they're interested in the buyback or not. As you can appreciate, with especially those on the retained, there were some that were never in the pension scheme. So there's not a record with West Yorkshire Pension Fund. So we couldn't get the address that way. They have also left many years ago. Payroll records are deleted after a 7-year period. So what we've had to do is, so we wrote to everybody where we had an address. Where we didn't have an address, we've been using a tracing company, which is an external company, and obviously that's been at cost to the Fire and Rescue Service to do that. We've not just done basic checks, traces, we've done extended traces as well, and we're waiting the final batch. So in that respect, we complied with the legislation for all of those that we had an address for. The ones where we've had the breach is the ones that we hadn't had the address for. But as soon as we've had addresses, we've actually written to them. What we had to do is undertake a breach assessment, because obviously any breaches are potentially reportable to the pensions regulator. As part of the pack, you've got a copy of that breach assessment. What we've said is, because there's no financial detriment to individuals, because as soon as we've got an address, we're actually writing to them to confirm that they can do the buyback. And because of that, people aren't suffering this financial detriment. So in that respect, the recommendation was that we didn't actually report it to the pensions regulator. And it's just if the board are in agreement with that recommendation.
Thank you, Liz. A useful summary and a good describing about the position we've been and the work that has been going on. And I would just like to put on record for the minutes to thank Liz and the team for all the work that has been going in place to try and contact retirees over this period of time, which I know has been a challenge. Comments and observations from the board, please.
Thank you, and I echo the Chief Fire Officer's thanks to you and your team, Liz. It sounds as though you've made all reasonable efforts to find ex-service personnel. So if we don't agree your recommendation not to report to the regulator, if the regulator were to become aware and took a different view, that all reasonable attempts weren't made, what would happen? Thank you.
Obviously, they would just look at what we've done. They do look at things as has somebody suffered a financial detriment. So obviously what they're interested in is things to do with finance, pensions in that respect. Has the employer done something deliberately? Where an individual is actually being deprived financially. So that's where their focus is. So we can report it to the regulator and get their view. And obviously it's the board's final decision. What I probably didn't say as well is we have used multiple. We've used the FBU. We've used multiple channels to try and track down people. It's word of mouth. I understand there's a Facebook group which it's even been posted on there, and we're getting people responding via that route. So we've literally tried everything we can. And I have to say the expense has not been, it's been quite an expenditure for Fire and Rescue to use the tracing company as well. And the fact that they've not restricted it to a basic search, they've also agreed to fund extended searches as well.
Thank you. Just one more thing, Chairman. So you're confident that you followed best practice? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm content, Chairman.
Thank you for that. Again, it covers a couple of the questions I was going to make, because without making the assumptions, it does feel that with the multiple avenues that we've gone to, I suppose my question is any other avenues that we could have, or think we could have explored, that has been considered, or probably, let me be but more pointed with my questions, that we considered but then discounted. Was there any?
There wasn't anything we discounted. We were literally trying anything and everything to track people down.
No, thank you, Liz. I'll probably offer it to the board. Are we in agreement with the recommendation that at this point we won't be there isn't a need to report to the fire pensions regulator?
An opinion on it?
Yep, no, that's fine. No, thank you, Paul, for the employee representation. Just to echo in case it wasn't picked up on the recording, nothing else was being put forward for employee representation as well. So just offer it up for the board if we are in agreement that we won't reporting to the fire pensions regulator, sorry, get my teeth back in, on the basis that we've explored multiple avenues, no area has been discounted. This has been through full support of Lincolnshire County Council and Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue in regards to financial support and wider representation. And the risk to individuals financially appears to us to be negligible or minimal. Is that a fair summary? Excellent. So let's do an old-fashioned show of hands if we're in support. Okay. Unanimous support, thank you. Please do, Liz, if you continue, thank you.
For the current issues, I just wanted to give an update as well for the Sergeant McLeod age discrimination remedy, and then I'll go into slightly a bit more detail about the Matthews second options exercise. So for the Sergeant McLeod age discrimination remedy, we've got 590 records that are actually in scope. We do have some individuals that have more than one pension record. Of these, 221 are also in scope of the Matthews second options exercise. As the board will know, we had interim measures in place prior to the legislation coming into effect on the 1st of October last year, where we had immediate detriment and we had the immediate detriment framework. So since the 1st of October, we've had 10 retirement notifications. 6 of these have retired on their legacy scheme benefits. We're still awaiting to hear from 1 individual and 3 more are still in process. Just to confirm, with those that are in scope of the sergeant age discrimination, at retirement they get a choice of their legacy scheme benefits or their reform scheme. So they get 2 retirement quotations and there's a breakdown. So this is what they call to as the deferred choice underpin, which means absolutely no sense to anyone outside of fire and rescue pensions, but it just means you get the choice of which of the 2 pensions is right for you as an individual. Going on to the Matthews second options exercise, there are 864 individuals in scope, so we've already been mentioned about. We've been using the tracing service to track some of these down to write to them. So we've actually managed to send 709 letters so far. We're still awaiting for the final batch of extended traces to come back for the tracing company. Of those forms that have been returned, only 4 so far have actually said that they don't want to pursue purchasing the additional pension. and the additional pension is right back to their continuous start date. Unfortunately, what's also been confirmed to us as part of the trace, and we knew some of these already, is that we've actually had 29 deceased members. There are separate arrangements that will apply to the beneficiaries. We are attending next week a local government association briefing on this, and then we'll be writing to those beneficiaries. So that's my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Any questions for Liz from board members? Thank you for the update again, and again, just extending the thanks for the team as well, because I know that's been it's an awful lot of increased workload for the team that are focusing on this area, which actually I'm sure we'll cover actually when we go on to the next item, which is the Fire Pensions Board Plan. So I think there's just probably two areas of worth just discussion and confirming. First area is relating to the plan spreadsheet, the one that's for just a point of reference, has the list of the report surveys that we need to get completed on a timely basis. Just confirming on line 2114, which is the TPR Public Service Governance and Administration Survey, which was due to have been completed in January 2024. Confirming that was, yeah, I think, and that was a question from us, because we usually get that through, and it's sometimes been forwarded through from scheme manager, hasn't it? Okay, so we shall, if we can just have an action, Tom, that we can confirm we've had the Public Service and Governance Administration Survey, and then we can look at having that completed on the forward plan. Then a look forward, Sue, which is for finance, is from April 2024, is to provide the year-end return to Home Office on the fire pensions top-up grant.
Yeah, that will be in hand. That's an annual task anyway, but we have been made aware from a bulletin that there's some additional requirements this year in terms of our returns, and that's about separating data relating to changes in pension benefits arising from these remedies from any compensation amounts. So I've got a meeting with Donna Jessup in the finance team in a couple of weeks' time to go through that and work out how we're actually going to do that from the system.
Okay.
Which will enable her to do that in April.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you for that, Sue. Thank you. Okay, and then in regards to training, we haven't had any provided training since the last board meeting, but the area of discussion is in regards to the risk register. Reviewing the risk register from the previous pension board meeting, the point of discussion is in regards to line A4. Forgive me, I should have brought my glasses with me today. And that's particularly focusing on the lack of skilled resources that relates to LCC and West Yorkshire Pensions Fund. Previously, the residual risk on this was rated as a 2, which was a green, but what we have recognised in regards to within LCC, particularly the movement of personnel, there's been a period where there's been a reduced amount of resource availability and skilled people. However, I think it's being picked back up again, but I think it was important to raise this at the board meeting that we feel that does create an increased risk because of the workloads and the criticality of the work that's having to be administered rightly through LCC, that we've suggested that the impact is still the same, but the probability has increased slightly. So we've raised the residual risk to a risk rating of 4, which is more amber, was the area that I'm offering to the board for any point of discussion, please, particularly from Paul, employee representation and employer representation. welcome views.
Nothing further to say, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Liz, is there anything else you wanted to add in regards to the context of that area?
Yes, I was thinking that as you were talking, I might just put that in context. What we had is, because although I'm the HR business partner for Fire and Rescue and Resources, obviously picking up various pension aspects is part of my day job, but with the Sergeant age discrimination and the Matthews second options exercise, these are two large-scale projects that are over and above what we'd normally do. So we had an additional resource. So I had someone for 3 days a week. They reduced to 2 days a week, but then have actually retired. We were training somebody up, and unfortunately, the night before of the retirement, they were taken into hospital with quite a serious condition. I'm pleased to say we have had that person back on a phased return, but they are going off for an operation again. So we won't see them for another 6 months. But what I have got, though, is approval, and I've been working with another HRBP colleague that's been assisting with me to get through the work. As we've mentioned, there is additional funding, so we are looking at alternatives as well. We've got a business support resource that we're using to support the Sergeant age discrimination work, so we are actually using that funding and bringing on other people in. So in that respect, it's been quite disruptive, but we're keeping it under control and review at all times, if that hopefully reassures the board.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. It's a difficult situation for you, Liz, so thank you for handling that. And are you confident that if you needed more resource that it would be there for you? Okay, so you're happy that you can deal with this situation at the moment?
What I've got is the assurance of my line manager that the HRBP resource that I've been given so many hours of, that will increase over time. So that will just provide greater resilience as well.
Okay, have you got some review points in, and or got some triggers that if it reaches a point where you think, right, this is not working, do you feel as though you can get that resource?
Yes, because I did escalate things to my assistant director, head of service and my line manager, so they're in no doubt about the situation. They all reacted immediately and we got some resource.
It's good to hear. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you for that, and Liz, and thank you very much for putting regards into that context behind it. In regards to just actually having that overview of where the current resourcing picture is, offering to the board, if the board approves the review of that number A4 in regards to the skilled resources for LCC and West Yorkshire Pension Board, is just that we're increasing it slightly, still under an amber, but just because of recognising the pressures that have been articulated, but with the controls and contingencies that have been described by Liz, that still feel it's a manageable area with the absolute recognition if more resources or skilled resources are required, then we've got a clear avenue to pursue that.
Yeah, and please pass on our best wishes to your colleague who's currently off work, and wish them a speedy recovery. Thank you. Okay.
So a board all in agreement with reviewing that particular risk item?
Yep.
Yep, unanimously approved. Thank you. Okay, so then that does move us on to item 7. Liz, is there any, in regards to the fire pension scheme bulletins, any by exception areas that you just wanted to summarise and bring out, please, Liz?
Yes, so I've provided the full summary as part of the pack, but I just wanted to highlight a few things. So in the November bulletin, and in fact I've already talked about the Matthews second options exercise and the deceased members. So there are two different types of grants. So that bulletin does mention those two particular grants and who it applies to. So we're looking at that. As I mentioned, we've got an LGA session next week, so we'll be looking at that in detail next week. Also in the same bulletin, there was some information about the Sergeant Age Discrimination Remedy. So this was about aggregation of current service. We've got some individuals, it is the exception rather than the norm, that when they've moved from one FRA to another, they've actually got service that's overlapping. And all it means is you can't overlap that concurrent service, and then the guidance has just been updated on that. We did put an article in the Fire Weekly Bulletin as well to alert people to that. In the December bulletin, there was just one thing, and again it ties up with the Matthews and the members that are now deceased. The LGA have actually put together some template letters which we'll be using and customising for Lincolnshire. So again, we'll draw on that next week. In the January bulletin, for the Sergeant Age Discrimination Remedy, we've got an article about added pension compensation. This is where when people are rolled back into their legacy scheme for the remedy period, then, and that period was the 1st of April 15 to the 31st of March 2022, because from the 1st of April 2022, everybody is in the Fire Pension 2015 scheme, so there is no discrimination from that point onwards. But what we've had two individuals that bought added pension contributions during that remedy period, and unfortunately what we've had to do is write to those individuals, because it can't be because it doesn't exist in the new legislation. We've had to pay that money back to them, so we've actually written to both of them. We're just awaiting the responses, and then what we'll do is we'll be reimbursing that amount. But the letter just explains everything that's happened and why it's happened and the monies they are due. Also in the same bulletin was what they called contingent decisions guidance. Again, it never quite says what it does on the tin, so to speak. All that means in plain English is where people chose to opt out thinking, I don't want to go in the new scheme, I don't think it's right for me, and that's the only reason they chose to opt out. So we'll be looking at those cases, and then we'll then be following this contingent decision guidance. So it's almost like put back to how it should have been had the 2015 scheme not been put into place. And the same with additional service, where people chose not to continue to buy additional service because they didn't want it in the new scheme. And I think with everything, there's like myths and conspiracies out there, isn't it? And it persuaded people to take certain course of actions that they might not necessarily have taken. So it's just trying to readdress those. And in the last bulletin we've just had, for the February bulletin, there were just two articles. So we've had the Firefighter Pension Scheme Amendment Regulations that's come into force on the 27th of March, and that's to take account of the unpaid carers leave that's coming in. So people can take up to a week's unpaid carers leave, but it is actually pensionable service. So it will form part of people's pension record. And then the last article, it's about the Sergeant Age Discrimination Remedy, and it's in relation to the Remedial Service Statement member videos. So as you know, each August people get an annual benefit statement that says what their current benefits are, and it also has projected benefits. And also at your normal retirement age as well. In addition to that, people in scope of the Agent Sergeant Discrimination Remedy will get one of these remedial service statements. There is a member video about this, and what we've done is we've published that member video link in the Fire Weekly Bulletin so people can understand what it's all about. So that was it, thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Any questions from board members?
Yep, thank you.
Wonderful, excellent, thank you. It's just, I think it's worth noting with the amount of regulation fact sheets and extra that's been coming out recently, I think it is useful a timely reminder that we are producing them in the weekly bulletin, so people are being aware of it, but also within on our intranet page we have a dedicated fire pensions tab to getting information as these things are still developing and evolving. So it's a useful opportunity to pinpoint people to where they can get this information as well. So thank you, Liz. Okay, so we'll move on to item 8, which is a fire pensions officer group, normally updated from West Yorkshire, but there's always the questions and the timings. Liz, has there been a meeting? Have you got an update? Thank you, Liz.
This is another of the regional meetings I have the pleasure of attending and hearing a whole hour and a half of fire pensions, which is, as you can appreciate, quite a complex subject, but getting my head around it. So the last meeting was on the 17th of January. I have to say all the issues that we've talked about today was discussed at that meeting. So we talked about contingent decisions, you know, the opt-outs and the added pension. And the member videos, which we said we've put in the weekly bulletin as well. And also Sue's confirmed about the only other thing that was mentioned, and this is where I did flag it up internally as well, about the additional funding that is being made available for the administrative burden on trying to do the Sergeant Age Discrimination and the Matthews Second Options exercise. So we're in discussions with strategic finance colleagues, so we've got that in hand and we are utilising that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And that did, kind of, in case I just missed it, was confirming we have got the process to basically look to applying for that grant funding, haven't we?
Yeah, it's something I will be talking to Donna about in a couple of weeks, but I'm sure she's got it in hand.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for that, Sue. Item 9, which is the update from the Scheme Advisory Board. Are we aware if there's been a Scheme Advisory Board meeting between the two board meetings? Unfortunately, we can't have an update or unaware of that with West Yorkshire not in attendance at this meeting. Okay, so it brings us to, well, I'll open up to any other business first. The only thing I think it is worth us putting on the minutes and for an action, Tom, recognising that West Yorkshire haven't been able to attend this meeting, have an action for myself to confirm with West Yorkshire if an individual isn't able to attend, that we do require a deputy to come to the Fire Pensions Board, as West Yorkshire Pension Board are one of our key stakeholders in regards to ensuring this pension board can work to its full effectiveness. Okay. Any other business, any points to raise? Okay, then that brings us on to confirming date of next meeting is the 21st of June 2024 at 10 a.m. And on that, I will offer to close the Fire Rescue Pensions Board meeting. Thank you all.